I started photography about 15 years ago in the normal, typical way of shooting colour, shooting black and white. Started really as a landscape photographer and a coastal photographer, experimenting with long exposures and dramatic seascapes. And slowly evolved into black and white photography through choice really, and through the inspirations that I had. When I moved to Newmarket, I didn't really know anything about horses or horse racing. But it was when I was out with my iPhone running and I would see these horses training in the beautiful backdrop of the gallops and in some wonderful light. Started to go out, started to photograph horses on the heath and in the landscape. And as I started to work more within the surroundings of Newmarket and the horse racing world, I started to build a body of work, and that led on to discussions with the National Horse Racing Museum, who invited me to exhibit here. So over 5 years worth of black and white, equine, landscape, Newmarket type photography, I've built this body of work that has become the exhibition Time in Motion. Working in a location for many years, you get to know where the light's going to be at certain times of the year, and so pictures like this would only be possible in certain parts of the heath where the sun's in certain locations, because obviously if the sun was around the other side, you wouldn't get this lovely backlight into the horse's breath that's rising up, and you wouldn't capture that at certain times of the year. So that's the blessing of getting to know your subject really well, so that you can know where the light is going to be on certain times of the year. When we called the exhibition Time in Motion, we thought carefully about how to title it, because it wasn't just about horse racing, it wasn't just about photography, it wasn't about any aspect of it. But what it was about time, and it was about rhythm, and it was about clockwork and the routine of the daily life here in Newmarket. This is Khadija Mella, very strong, powerful portrait of her. The light was really tricky in here because it's taken in one of the barns at one of the yards. And I didn't ask her to do what she's doing here. I just wanted to take a series of very natural portraits, but this portrait has such power. She really is owning it. Khadija was the first Muslim female jockey to win at Royal Ascot, so she's quite famous in the world of horse racing. We've got that lovely eye connection. It's a very strong and powerful but natural portrait. Working with that, you've got the horse in the left-hand side that's looking on, and for me, that makes the picture complete. It wouldn't have been quite so successful or shown the same sort of context without the horse over in that left-hand side. But again, another picture where I'm considering composition, making sure that I'm in the right place with the camera, just to give a bit of clearance between this block here and her arm. If that was overlapping, it wouldn't have been so successful. I mean, here it wasn't possible to avoid, but I'm always really conscious of trying to make the compositions as nicely balanced and aesthetically pleasing as I can. And when I moved to Newmarket, I did not know what the opportunities would be in front of me to further explore my own work and the way I took pictures, the way I saw things, and how I would evolve as a photographer. When I started taking pictures in Newmarket, they were very much landscape pictures with horses in them. But then I started working with some of the yards, and I started to get this feeling of the backstory of the life behind the stable door, and the clockwork and the daily routine and the rhythm of the town. And it was that I became interested in, that connection of the horses and the people. And then it evolved to the connections between the people and capturing those candid moments. They say as a photographer, always look behind you. However many times have we stood on a beach or in a landscape with the camera on the tripod taking a scene, and actually there's more interesting stuff going on behind you, but we don't look at that, or we can't see it, or we can't comprehend it. But as you move through the process of photography and learning and reading and exploration of your own, capabilities or your creativity, then things start to evolve. This has been a really popular image at the exhibition, and a picture that you couldn't rehearse, you couldn't stage it. That moment of connection between the farrier and Wiz, the horse, looking over his shoulder as he's fitting his shoe. But this sense of trust and of love that there is between them is really beautiful. And Wiz is a lovely ex-race horse. He's a real gentle giant, and he's got these lovely liver spots, which in black and white just are perfect to bring some lovely textures into the picture. But just the expression and the shape of how everything comes together on this portrait is just really lovely, and just shows that you can't stage these moments. You just have to be really responsive to picking these things up and work fast. Black and white for me has always been the preferred medium. It's timeless, it's artistic, it allows you to focus on the scene, it allows you to focus on the subject and the framing of the image. It takes out the clutter of colour, the distraction of colour. I see the world in black and white. It's a very conscious thing to make sure that the viewer looks at the picture and sees the picture, sees the emotion, sees the textures, the light, the shadow, the atmosphere, and there's no distraction of colour. It can make uninteresting things interesting, and it can make light dance for you in the frame. Tonality, it's all part of black and white photography. This is Rob. This was one of his first days at the farriery, at James Coburn's Farriers. It was taken on a very soft grey morning, so you've got this lovely diffused light that's coming in through the window, and just catching Rob's shoulder there, just highlighting that shoulder. And again, this was a picture that I took a series of shots, but this was actually the best one, where you've got as much clearance and as much space around the hand and the lovely veins and the hammer just coming down, making the shoe, just to make it as compositionally pleasing as possible. And obviously the flames there in the background, making sure that to capture those in the nicest shape that they could be, to kind of bring the whole picture together. It's been an amazing process. The whole thing, the whole 6 months that the show's been on has been great. The people I've met, the people that are not necessarily interested in horse racing but have come to the town to see the exhibition, people from art backgrounds, from photographic backgrounds, and from horse racing backgrounds, that have all kind of fully appreciated the show but in very different ways. It's been an amazing process.